hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy, and welcome back to a brand new movie review. Today we are continuing our reviews on the majority of the films that have been nominated for an Academy Award. I don't know if we'll get to them all. We'll try to. This is News of the World, directed by Paul Greengrass. This has been nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Original Score, Best Cinematography, Best Production Design, and Best Sound. This is, of course, starring the one and only, the very bankable star Tom Hanks, and Helena Zengel. I don't know how to pronounce her name, so we'll call her Helena. This is the Western drama film, as I mentioned. This actually came out last December, I believe, in the States. This is currently on Netflix, and I watched it earlier today in preparation, so I was quite late to this because I know it's been out for a few weeks now, actually probably a few months now at this point. So this is going to be our in-depth review on the film. I don't think it'll be a particularly long review. I think for the most part it's going to be spoiler-free, but if we do get into any kind of spoiler territory, we'll let you guys know before we get to it. But before we jump into the review, over to George with the socials. Absolutely, guys. We want you to comment below your thoughts on News of the World. It's not going to be a massively long review, and we will drop spoilers in there because it's been available for you guys to stream over here for a couple of months now. So, fun fact behind the scenes, we were meant to cover this at the start of February, but there was some IT issues that cocked that up. That's actually Netflix's fault. Another story for another time, maybe. However, if you like this video, if you like the Oscar films, we've got a playlist in our description with all the Oscar films. We've got a lot of the ones nominated for Best Film. You're probably wondering, hey, why are these guys reviewing News of the World, not Nomadland, not Promising Young Woman, not Sound of Metal? That's because those 3 are next. We'll have Nomadland out this Sunday. If you want to find out about the films when we're going to have reviews up, because we are heading so close to the Oscars, 10 days today at night time. Get us on our social media. I was actually going to check how long it was. Yeah. Thanks for that. Oh, God, I've got so many films to watch before then. It's fine. We will get through. We always do every year. No more Marvel films, luckily. That's where we're up to pre-recording. But find us on our social medias: Facebook at Cinema Savvy, Twitter at cinema_savvy, letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy, and we have links below in the description for our TeePublic store and for our Oscar giveaway. You basically need to submit your predictions over to us using the form in the description and to the email address, and we'll top them up on the night, and whoever wins gets a £15 Rakuten voucher to go get some snazzy new films on PVOD and all that new terminology they keep calling them. That being said, we're discussing a film you can stream on Netflix. We always talk in these Oscar films, the nominations first. I don't even know where to start this. I guess because it's a Paul Greengrass film. Because that completely surprised me. I only ever think of the Bourne films. Same. And Shaky Cam. And I was like, oh, a Western. I was like, okay. And yeah, that was. I didn't really have anything else. It was, it's a Tom Hanks film, isn't it? That I think Tom Hanks is such a legend, and he's so likable that he's kind of become like a really polite meme. I guess I think a lot more people are around now compared to 2-3 years ago. Like, oh, Tom Hanks is going to come in and save the day, and it's funny because it's always true, and I don't think anyone's ever going to have a problem with it. Like, I don't need Tom Hanks to play Drexel Spivvy. Do you know what I mean? I don't need him to be that. And Tom Hanks knows it. He knows what he's good at. We know what he's great at. And I think that's why it works. It's like the latest Tom Hanks film. It's kind of his own franchise at this point. And you always got to start off with him. Tom Hanks doing a Western. That's the official description for the film, isn't it? Yeah, and I'm trying to think of a role, probably like Forrest Gump. I'm trying to think of a Tom Hanks role where I've actually seen the character he's playing as a character and not that's Tom Hanks in that film. Tom Hanks in Castaway, Tom Hanks in The Green Mile or whatever. Woody, I guess. Woody, that's animated, doesn't really count. Saving Private Ryan. There you go. Yeah, Tom Hanks in that too. Yeah, this is actually the second outing with Paul Greengrass. I forgot that Greengrass directed Captain Phillips back in 2013. I actually didn't know this was a Greengrass movie. This shows how closely I was following this movie. So as soon as the credits hit, I was just like, oh, I recognize that name. I actually thought he directed all of the Bourne films, but he just directed Supremacy, Ultimatum, and the most recent one that came out. Was it just Jason Bourne or whatever it was? So I didn't know much about his directing style. I know that the Bourne films, when it comes to action, as you mentioned before, it's a lot of shaky cam. Knowing that now, there is plenty of shaky cam in this film as well. There's a lot of sort of conversation shots, very much handheld. including one shot which I thought was terrible, which I'll get into. I don't even know if it's a spoiler, but there's one scene where you've got the two main actors talking to each other, because it's quite a limited cast, really, this film. I'll go into the plot now. I may as well. It's a good segue as any. A Civil War veteran, Tom Hanks's character, agrees to deliver a girl taken by the Kiowa people years ago to her aunt and uncle against her will. They travel hundreds of miles and face grave dangers as they search for a place that either can call home. So, yeah, there's just a conversation between these two characters, and the camera's just going crazy, and it like awkwardly zooms in and out, and it kind of took me out of it, because it made me conscious that I was watching when there's loads of camera movement, I go, that's a camera zooming into that shot and pulling focus, and it kind of takes me out of the setting, because I know that someone's just pointing a camera. I don't know if that makes any sense, because of course I know I'm watching a film. But I am a sucker for a good Western. It's one of my favorite genres, and if a Western can be done well, they're always some of my favorite films. So when I saw the trailers coming out for this thing, and pretty much more or less in the Oscars run-up, where, you know, we've just had the BAFTAs and everything, and you'll see shots for cinematography. There's the sandstorm shot, which is probably one of the best shots in the film. And I won't say like hype, because it's very difficult to get hyped for a film like News of the World, but my interest was piqued. I didn't know what to expect from it, and I watched it today, and, you know, my review right out the gate, it's fine. It's so average. It's good. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again. It's fine. It ticks all the boxes. It connects all the dots. It does everything you need it to. It's got some good performances in there, but there's nothing particularly outstanding about it. There was no moment where, even though it's nominated for cinematography, and there are some shots which are genuinely beautiful, there's one where the camera's sort of bird's eye view of this herd of cattle as it leads into the town. Beautiful shot, as I mentioned, the sandstorm shot. But beyond that, there's no sort of good, the bad, and the ugly shots in this. There's no moments where your jaw just drops and you take in the beauty of cinema. And I don't know if that's partly down to the fact that it's on Netflix, and you more or less, people watching this film will be watching it on a smaller screen. So nothing kind of jumped out to me. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but we'll get into the review a bit more. But I wasn't underwhelmed. I wasn't overwhelmed. It was just as standard as a movie as it can be, really.
Yeah, it's a weird one, because I think when we're in Oscar season, there's that lull of films, and it's like we're going to get some really good films, like some unbelievably good films that should be up for best film, and it will be up there. And then you get the sort of the bracket beneath, which is like, you know, you were never going to get nominated for best one, but you're well crafted, you're well made. You might not be the most interesting story, but I appreciate this is a well made film, and I think this is the worst time of year to get those films, because you kind of not going gunslinging, pun not intended, but is very much, you know, yeah, it was fine. Like, I've got 4 more films to watch. I'm going to move on. And it's a shame, because I think it's like when you get blockbusters come out in, like, say, February, it's this big audacious deal, because we don't get blockbusters in February. We get Oscar films. And then when you get an Oscar film in, like, June, July, no one cares, because the blockbusters are coming out. It's that weird cycle that goes around. And I think News of the World is one of those where, you know, it's got 4 nominations. I don't know if I agree with certainly cinematography. I don't think it was all that. But then again, it's been a very different year for film, hasn't it? Being polite, it's got a great score. But as someone that isn't, I wouldn't say I'm not into westerns. I'm just not very familiar with the genre. I haven't seen many western films at all, even the more like modern ones from the late 90s and stuff like that. It's not like musicals or anything. It's not my genre. I just don't see many of them. So it was interesting from a perspective to go in like, you know, it's a very small scale story. It's because, you know, bit of background. If anyone doesn't know, News of the World was a monstrous, shit paper, basically. Horrific paper over here in England. So to probably every English person that said, there's a Tom Hanks film coming up called News of the World, everyone assumes it'll be about phone hacking scandals, which is what I did for many months. And it's like, it's a Western, and it's in the Civil War. And I was like, like, because of what we know the News of the World as, it was something so different. So, and
there was that previous Tom Hanks film, wasn't there? Was it a Spielberg movie? Meryl Streep. That was it. Yeah, very similar kind of film.
It's like that. And when it was the Western, I was watching. You know, I kind of enjoyed it to a point that I messaged you. I was like, "This is a lot like Red Dead Redemption." And, you know, it's not robbing banks and bandits. There are bandits, but it's not that. It's just like, this is very much. I'm just going to get on my horse and just travel to the next town
Mhm.
Read the news. It reminded me of There Will Be Blood. Like, you know, the opening scene, like Daniel Plainview trying to sell them his idea.
Yeah.
It was kind of like some weird anagram, like it's Tom Hanks trying to tell them the news. And there's some really good scenes, but I just think it's one of those Oscar films that comes out, you see it, you've seen it once, you won't need to see it again. If you're a fan of Tom Hanks, it's going to be one of those films like, yeah, great, new Tom Hanks one, but it's not particularly lasting, and I don't think it will be in that conversation piece as time goes by. Sadly, even for Paul Greengrass films, Captain Phillips, you know, had a lot more going for it. I know it's completely different genres. That's also more relative with it being recent, but you know, I'm the Captain Now is probably one of the most iconic cinema lines of the last 10 years.
Yeah, and I think that film, definitely in terms of tension, that scene that you mentioned there that everyone quotes, that's become the meme now. I remember seeing that for the first time, and I don't remember loads about Captain Phillips. I watched it once. We watch a lot of movies in our own time, as well as stuff for the channel. But that scene did stick with me, and if I think of that film, I immediately go to that scene. There's moments of you know, peril in this film, but I never really got that sense of tension. There's a scene where they get stranded in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the desert, which is one of my biggest fears, because if I was in that situation, I'd be terrified. It's just, so you do get that sense of scope that they are just lost in this vast, endless desert essentially, but and then like a sandstorm shows up. But I never felt like I was fearing for the characters all that much. I don't know if you had the same thing. There's a moment where there's quite an elongated standoff. And that bit reminded me of Red Dead Redemption, where there's like bandits after you, and you're cover shooting behind a rock, and you're loading up ammo, and you're sniping over the top of it. So I love all that stuff with Westerns, but I never really had that tension, because I was like, I know that Tom Hanks is going to get out of this alive. It's Tom Hanks, you know. This is actually based on a book. I forgot to mention that in the intro, a book of the same name. I haven't read the book. I don't know if it's identical to the book. I'm assuming the book goes into a lot of detail. I'd say towards the end of the film, because it isn't even 2 hours, I think it's almost 2 hours bang on the dot, I do get the impression that they kind of sped through the ending a little bit. Something happens where a character is left in a certain place and another one goes somewhere else, and then very quickly backpedals and goes back towards the other character. And I get the impression that in the book that's probably drawn out a bit longer. It didn't seem like it earned that, the emotional beat it was trying to go for at the end. But the performances were great. You know, just moving on to the performances, I'm not going to try and pronounce her name, but Helena, the one who plays the character of Joanna in the film, thought she was tremendous. Very little dialogue, but the you know, a lot of actions and facial expressions and the way she got into the character. I really liked her character, and she's kind of like the emotional core of the film. She's the person that Tom Hanks, I mean, she almost becomes like a surrogate daughter to him, really, doesn't she? I think that's kind of like the whole point of the story, really. I thought she was tremendous, really. But other than Tom Hanks, who's being Tom Hanks, and he's great at being Tom Hanks, that's pretty much your cast, really. There's a few other people in there, but no one really of note, is there, really? It's just the main two.
Yeah, it's very much a father-daughter film without being father-daughter, and it sort of, I hate to bring another game, Last of Us, it's that lonesome individual, new, younger sort of partner,
Logan
have to adapt
kind
them.
of thing.
Yeah, it's something that I don't want to say done to death, because it is great to get them. I think it's a very good story when films it, and you do feel for them. And I think what made it nice is her performance, that she doesn't have much dialogue, that she's very much a physical performance. And I think that works hand in hand better with Tom Hanks, that, you know, we've seen him act opposite against a volleyball and, you know, and other things. So we know he can act well around anything in truth, but I thought they were okay together. But because, as you said, it is a Tom Hanks film, and it's very stereotypical, that, you know, well, not stereotypical, sorry, predictable, that you know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Oh, XYZ was left here. Well, we know exactly what's going to happen in 2 minutes' time, and then it does happen in 2 minutes' time. So it just leaves you not sort of, I don't know, I'm jumping into my final thoughts, but it just doesn't give you that. I felt like I've seen anything different. I've seen this so many times before, and it's just done well, done differently, and that's all I can kind of say.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like other things that I can throw out there. There's some use of CGI in this film. It's minimal, but the scenes where CGI was used, it always kind of sticks out to me in a film like this. I think with a Western, I know there's probably some Westerns out there that use visual effects, you know, to enhance the background, to extend the background and the landscape shots. That's fine, but I guess I'm quite old school with my Westerns. I like there to be all in camera, because it just kind of takes me, it makes me suspend my disbelief and puts me into that world. If I see something like a CGI rock rolling towards someone, I'm just like, that's digital, that's too modern, and it kind of clashes. So I had a few moments like that with the film as well. There's a scene in particular where there's a flood, and Helena's character gets separated from the Native American tribe, and she can see them across the water, and they're kind of walking off, and the CGI body doubles on them were terrible. Like, it was digital doubles for the people across the water. The music, I wanted to talk about the music because this is nominated for Best Original Score. So James Newton Howard did the music. I love the music to this. I need to remind myself of the things that have been nominated for soundtrack. I know that Tenet hasn't been nominated for soundtrack, which is an absolute travesty for Ludwig Göransson. I can't actually remember what else has been nominated this year, but it's a solid score. I think in other years, I probably wouldn't have nominated it. I could say there's probably like a handful of tracks on there, but it fits the world and it fits the mood, and it is a solid soundtrack. And usually I give it the credits test. Like when the music's playing in the credits, if I'm enjoying the music in the credits, then it gets a pass from me. So, and James Newton Howard's always solid as well. My final thoughts on the film. I enjoyed it. I think it's a solid watch. It's an easy watch. It's just under 2 hours, I think, just shy of 2 hours, maybe. It's on Netflix, so it's easily available to watch. It's a solid Western film, but it is very much by the numbers, as you mentioned, George. It's completely predictable. You know exactly where it's going to go. You've seen 1,000,001 other stories that tell this exact same story, and it's done exactly the same way. And nothing about it particularly wowed me. Nothing from the direction. Although, you know, the actress who plays Helena is fantastic in the film. Sorry, Helena is the name of the actress. Helena is fantastic. That's just nothing stood out to me. And that's a shame for me with a Western, because I do like a good Western. But if for nothing else, it has made me want to go back and play Red Dead Redemption 2. So maybe I'll fire that up this weekend and have a trip down memory lane with that one. But it's a solid watch. It's just one that we really had to get through, to be honest, wasn't it? To cross another off the Academy Awards films list.
Yeah, I want to quickly just add to that, because I've kind of echoed my final thoughts. But I want to talk about Best Original Score. We have Soul, which is probably going to win.
Yeah.
News of the World, Minari, Mank, and The Five Bloods. I think it's out of Soul and Mank, so Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross wins either way, and John Batista if it's for the Soul one. But yeah, we'll on the Oscars actually we'll talk Tenet, because that's still infuriating.
Probably the biggest snub of this year, I would say.
It's the biggest snub that should have won. It should have been out of that and Sold. No other thing. But the soundtrack was good in this. I'm going to say it was worthy of being nominated. It's The Five Bloods that shouldn't have been for soundtrack. And they nominated that because then the board's nominated for the correct categories, which is the Oscars politics we love talking about, which is a great time to really quickly segue into our Oscars live stream. We'll be live on the channel as we do every year. During the Oscars stream, we'll be watching it at homes. We'll have it synced up. And it's basically just different commentary. We've got our predictions game. We've got other stuff going on. We talk about the films, snubs, conversations, the state of cinema. So I wanted to plug that because we are getting closer, and I hope people didn't think it's reactions. And sometimes we do react, because we were live on the year of the La La Land, not Minari, Moonlight.
Yeah.
And that's probably the closest thing you've ever had to a genuine live reaction from me, because I'm not massive on the reaction stuff, am I? And there was a gasp, which is enough. So who knows? Maybe they'll accidentally read out Tenet for Best Soundtrack, and I'll be amazed as usual. That being said, with our final thoughts, I'm going to quickly bring up the socials. We want you guys at home to let us know your thoughts on the news of the world. As you've said, a lot of films come out. You might have already seen this, you might have not. Still nominated for 4 Oscars. It does the multiple nominations, but we've got a lot more reviews coming on the channel. So do follow us, hit us up on our socials for those. Facebook, Cinema Savvy, Twitter at cinema_savvy, letterboxd.com/cinema savvy, and check out our description for the links to the TeePublic store and the Oscar predictions giveaway. And as well as this, we've got a lot more stuff happening on the channel. We have something heating very nicely, which is going to carry on tomorrow night. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Episode 5 goes up tomorrow. We'll be discussing that as we always do. I'm hearing lots of good stuff online about this episode, which is going to be very interesting. And if you do like Marvel, then we've got a lot of other Marvel stuff happening. We have the Infinite Saga retrospective, which is in its latter stages. We've had Ant-Man and the Wasp go up yesterday on the channel. And on Saturday, you'll get Captain Marvel, on Monday, Endgame. That's the state of where we're at. We've got 5 more episodes. We've got to finishing off with a ranking list. So do check that out. We've got a lot of stuff coming up for then. As we said, it's going to be like a fresh start coming in of April. On the same weekend, we'll have no more Falcon, no more Oscars, no more Marvel. And we've got sort of stuff starting up. So follow us on all of our socials. Hit that subscribe button if you like our videos. If you want to see what else is coming up. If you're a Tom Hanks fan, comment below. Is this a good Tom Hanks film? Is this up there with some of the ones? Probably not. But just let us know some of your favourite Tom Hanks performances, just to lighten up the mood ever so slightly.
Absolutely. And if you're in it for the Oscar films, we will be back on Sunday as well for our live review on Nomadland, which is probably the walkaway winner this year. Who knows? Anything could happen on the night of the Oscars, but it is the bookies' favourite, and I'm very much looking forward to watching that film as well. So check out that on Sunday. That'll do it for us for right now. Until the next video, we'll see you guys next time. Take care.